The unthinkable act. The day had started like any other on Earth. People went about their daily routines, oblivious to the fate that was about to befall them. Across the world, families were eating breakfast, workers were heading to their offices, and children were getting ready for school. The planet was at peace, or so it seemed. Then, without warning, a strange object appeared in the sky. It was huge, unlike anything humanity had ever seen. It was a dark, menacing shape, blotting out the sun as it descended from the heavens. People stared in awe, some even frightened, as the object hovered above major cities worldwide. But no one could have predicted what came next. From the enormous craft, a fleet of alien ships began to descend. These were not peaceful visitors or diplomats. These were invaders, and they came with one clear mission: to take Earth's resources by force. The alien ships were armed to the teeth, their weapons powerful and destructive. They had come to conquer, to strip the planet of everything it had to offer. The world leaders, caught off guard and panicking, scrambled to respond. Emergency broadcasts filled the airwaves, urging citizens to stay calm and remain in their homes. But nothing could calm the fear spreading through the population. The aliens didn't speak, didn't offer a warning. They simply attacked. Major cities were devastated as explosions rocked buildings, and people ran for their lives. No one knew how to stop them. Amid the chaos, the aliens made their most shocking move, something no one could have ever imagined. They took a child. The child, a young boy from a small town, was playing in his yard when the aliens descended. The boy's name was Liam, and he was no older than 8 years old. His mother had just called him in for lunch when the alien ship appeared, a dark shadow overhead. Before anyone could react, an energy beam shot down, grabbing Liam and pulling him into the ship. His mother screamed, but it was too late. The boy was gone. The aliens didn't understand what they had just done. They were used to conquering worlds, taking resources, and neutralizing any resistance. But they didn't realize one thing: humans didn't take kindly to losing their own. When the news of the boy's abduction spread, it struck a chord with every person on Earth. This wasn't just an attack on a planet or a nation. It was an attack on humanity's very heart. The child was innocent, vulnerable, and taken without cause. His capture sparked something deep within the people of Earth. A fire began to burn, a fire that would consume everything in its path. The Galactic Empire, a vast alien force that had conquered many worlds, didn't see the gravity of what they had done. To them, it was just another battle, another victory in their conquest. But they were wrong. They had underestimated the human spirit. Liam's mother, devastated by the loss of her son, was not alone. Around the world, other families, other mothers and fathers, shared the same pain. It wasn't just Liam's family who felt the loss. Every human being on the planet could feel the wound. There was no more talk of peace, no more calls for diplomacy. Earth would not let this stand. The leaders of Earth quickly realized that this wasn't just about defending the planet anymore. It was about sending a message to the invaders. If they thought they could take a child and get away with it, they were gravely mistaken. The entire planet united with a single purpose: to get Liam back and to make sure the aliens knew the true power of humanity. The world's military forces mobilized faster than ever before. Satellites tracked the alien ships, their movements monitored every second. Every country, regardless of its differences, focused on one goal: the rescue of the child. Earth was not just going to fight back. They were going to make the invaders regret ever setting foot on their soil. Across the globe, ordinary people stood up. People who had never thought of themselves as warriors or heroes were now preparing to defend their planet. Soldiers trained harder, civilians worked tirelessly to support the effort, and scientists worked around the clock to find a way to fight back. The aliens, still confident in their superiority, didn't understand the shift that was happening. Earth was no longer just a target to be conquered. It was a force to be reckoned with. Every corner of the planet buzzed with activity as plans were drawn up, strategies put in place, and the resolve to take back what was lost hardened in the hearts of all. The aliens had made one critical mistake. They had taken something more precious than any resource: human life, human innocence. And now, they would see the cost of that mistake. They had awakened something they couldn't control. As the sun set on that fateful day, Earth was no longer a peaceful, unsuspecting planet. The planet had been awakened to a war it never wanted, but one it would fight to the end. The aliens had thought they could simply take what they wanted, but now they would learn the truth. Humans don't take kindly to threats, and they certainly don't forget when one of their own is taken. The hunt for Liam had begun, and Earth's wrath was unstoppable. The world was not ready for war, but war had arrived nonetheless. The news of the alien abduction spread faster than anyone could have imagined. The global reaction was swift and unified. Governments, once divided by politics, set aside their differences for a common cause: to rescue the child and to punish the invaders for their unforgivable crime. Liam's mother, a woman named Sarah, became the symbol of humanity's resolve. She was the voice that inspired millions. Her grief was deep, but her anger was even deeper. She spoke to the media, her eyes filled with tears, but her words laced with unwavering determination. "They took my son, but they will never take our spirit," she said. "We will fight. We will not rest until he is returned. And if they do not return him, we will make them regret it." Her words went viral. People from every corner of the world shared her message, and it ignited something within them. Ordinary people, who had never thought of themselves as soldiers, began to prepare for a fight. Local militias formed, and citizens from all walks of life volunteered to support the military's efforts. They knew this wasn't just about one child. It was about Earth itself, and no one was willing to let the invaders take anything else from them. The Earth's military forces scrambled to defend the planet. The alien ships, which had initially appeared to be unstoppable, were now under constant surveillance. Satellites tracked their movements, and military leaders began to form strategies for how to retaliate. But the invaders were far more advanced than anything humanity had ever faced. Their technology was beyond Earth's comprehension, and their ships were capable of withstanding nearly any form of attack. In the face of these challenges, Earth's leaders did not back down. They worked together, pooling resources, knowledge, and expertise from across the globe. Scientists, engineers, and military strategists put aside their differences and worked as one. They understood that the stakes were higher than ever. If they failed to act, Earth would fall, and they knew it. Meanwhile, the aliens, confident in their superiority, made no effort to communicate. They had taken the child, and they expected the humans to bow to their will. What they didn't understand was that humans didn't bow. They didn't cower. They fought. The first sign of resistance came when the Earth's united forces launched a series of strikes on the alien ships hovering above major cities. Using their limited knowledge of alien technology, Earth's best engineers crafted makeshift weapons, modifying old weaponry to work against the invaders. The first attack was a surprise. It didn't do much damage, but it sent a clear message: Earth was not giving up without a fight. The aliens, in their arrogance, dismissed the attacks as insignificant. They underestimated the power of human ingenuity. They didn't realize that humanity's strength didn't lie in the size of their weapons or the power of their ships, but in their unyielding will to survive. Humans had a fire inside them, a drive to protect what they loved, and no alien force could easily extinguish that. Back on Earth, leaders from every nation met in secret, knowing that the first wave of attacks had only been the beginning. They couldn't afford to wait any longer. The Galactic Empire was not going to show mercy, and they had to act fast. Military leaders discussed plans to launch a full-scale assault on the alien invaders, but they knew they needed more. They needed to find the child. Liam was not just a symbol of the Earth's resistance. He was the key to understanding the aliens' plans. The hunt for Liam began. Every available resource was put into locating the child and uncovering the aliens' objectives. Satellites, drones, and even human spies were used to track the aliens, but their ships were far too advanced. The humans' efforts seemed futile, but they refused to give up. Each passing day brought more despair, but also more determination. As the war for Earth began, the invaders soon learned that they had underestimated the power of humanity. They had expected a world of fragmented, disconnected nations, each too weak to stand against them. What they had not expected was a unified Earth, a planet full of people who, when united, could be an unstoppable force. The story of the child's abduction, combined with Sarah's plea for justice, became a rallying cry. Earth was no longer just a planet under attack. It was a world ready to fight back, to defend its people, and to make the invaders regret ever crossing their path. But there was still one question that remained. Could they save Liam in time? The aliens had taken him, and Earth would not rest until he was back where he belonged. The stakes had never been higher, and every second counted. As Earth's forces prepared for the inevitable clash, they all knew one thing: this war would change everything. The moment Earth declared war, a shift in the balance of power rippled throughout the galaxy. The Galactic Empire, accustomed to having the upper hand, had never anticipated such a response from a planet like Earth. They assumed humanity would cower in fear, too fractured and weak to mount any significant defense. But they were wrong. The first signs of Earth's resolve were a series of defiant communications from every world leader, broadcast across all media channels. "What they have done is unforgivable," the UN Secretary-General declared, his voice filled with a calm, unwavering resolve. "We will unite as one to take back what is ours." Across the globe, governments, once divided by politics, history, and culture, set aside their differences. The unification of Earth's military efforts was unlike anything ever seen before. Countries that had once been hostile to each other shared intelligence, resources, and military strategies. Nations with advanced technologies lent their innovations to countries less equipped. The dream of a united Earth was no longer just an ideal. It was a necessity. But even as Earth prepared its defenses, the aliens showed no signs of fear. Their ships, towering behemoths in space, hovered ominously over major cities, sending a message of dominance. They didn't need to say a word. Their presence alone was enough to instill dread. But as the world began to organize its forces, a new fear spread among the alien ranks: the strength of human will. The first major skirmish occurred in the skies above New York City. An alien ship, massive and imposing, was detected entering Earth's atmosphere. Military forces had been waiting, ready to make their move. The humans launched their first full-scale offensive, a calculated strike designed not to destroy the invaders, but to send a message. The alien vessel was struck by a barrage of newly designed missiles, a hybrid of human ingenuity and alien technology scavenged from the battlefield. It didn't destroy the ship, but it disabled its engines, sending it crashing into the ocean below. The aliens were not prepared for the fierce resistance they encountered. Their ships, once thought indestructible, now faced weapons they didn't understand. They had underestimated Earth's capacity for innovation and resourcefulness. The humans had no space fleets, no armies of advanced robots, but what they did have was sheer determination. Back on the ground, Earth's military forces mobilized with purpose. The United States, China, Russia, and European nations formed a coalition of nations that would lead the charge against the alien invaders. But Earth's real strength lay not in their weapons, but in their people. Ordinary civilians were joining the effort in droves, volunteering to help in any way they could. They built barricades, repaired broken machines, and provided support to the military. It was a collective effort. Everyone knew that their survival depended on unity. Sarah, the mother of the abducted child, became the heart of this resistance. Her face was everywhere, on billboards, in newspapers, and on every social media platform. Her pain was shared by millions, but so was her unrelenting will to fight. She became the symbol of what Earth was willing to sacrifice to take back what was stolen. But as the days passed, the search for the child continued to escalate. The aliens had him, and no one knew where he was. Earth's forces scrambled to uncover the truth about the aliens' intentions. Were they keeping the child for ransom? Or did they have more sinister plans? With each passing day, humanity pushed back against the invaders, slowly but surely gaining ground. However, the cost was high. Cities were destroyed, lives were lost, and yet, Earth's resolve only grew stronger. The Galactic Empire, too, felt the pressure. Their leaders were starting to question whether this war would be worth it. The humans had proven far more difficult to defeat than they ever expected. What started as a small, seemingly insignificant species was now a force to be reckoned with. Meanwhile, the child remained in the hands of the invaders. They had not yet made any demands, and Earth's leaders began to fear that the child might be used for something far darker than they could imagine. The question echoed throughout the planet. What did the aliens want with a human child? The military's top brass knew one thing for sure. They had to find him before it was too late. Every moment counted. Time was running out, and Earth's forces were preparing for the next phase of their assault. There was no turning back now. The war had begun, and Earth was going to make sure the galaxy never forgot the name of the planet that refused to bow to anyone. But as Earth's forces rallied, the aliens too were preparing. They had made one terrible mistake, and they knew that now they would have to face the full wrath of humanity. It wasn't just about the child anymore. It was about survival. Earth wasn't just defending a single life. They were fighting for the future of their world, and they were ready to do whatever it took to win. The war between Earth and the Galactic Empire was escalating faster than anyone had anticipated. Each battle that Earth fought brought them closer to the heart of the enemy, the aliens' capital ship, a massive vessel known as the Dominion. It was said to be the most powerful ship in the galaxy, a war machine that could wipe entire planets from existence with a single command. And yet, despite the odds, Earth's forces were still pressing forward, determined to rescue the child and end the conflict that had begun with such a devastating blow. Sarah, though still grieving for her lost son, found herself at the center of Earth's resistance. Her voice had become a rallying cry for millions of people. Her image, resolute and defiant, was painted on walls, shared on social media, and broadcast across the globe. She was no longer just a mother who had lost her child. She was a symbol of humanity's will to survive, to fight back, and to protect what was theirs. But even with the support of millions, there was still no sign of her son. As the battles raged on, Sarah's focus shifted. Her mission was no longer just about vengeance. It was about finding the truth. What had the Galactic Empire done with her son? What did they want with him? The questions plagued her every waking moment. And so, with a new sense of purpose, Sarah set out on a mission of her own. While the military forces prepared for the final assault on the Dominion, Sarah began gathering a team. They weren't the elite soldiers who had led Earth's military offensives. They were ordinary people, like her, with a burning desire to get to the truth. Together, they would infiltrate alien territory and uncover the secrets hidden within the Dominion. As Sarah and her team made their way toward the enemy lines, the atmosphere in the air was thick with tension. The sounds of distant explosions and gunfire filled the air as Earth's forces continued to clash with the alien invaders. The alien ships were massive and imposing, their presence looming over Earth's cities like a shadow that would never fade. Yet Earth's forces fought with the fury of a species that had nothing to lose. For Sarah, the path ahead seemed impossible. The further she got into the heart of the conflict, the more the realization hit her. The child she had once held in her arms could be part of something much larger than she ever imagined. What if the Galactic Empire's interest in her son wasn't just because of his humanity? What if there was more to it, something far more sinister? The aliens, it seemed, had been toying with humanity for years, using their advanced technology to infiltrate Earth's communications, culture, and even history. The truth of Earth's involvement in the galactic conflict was far deeper than anyone could have anticipated. And as Sarah's team neared the Dominion, they discovered something that shocked them to their core, a secret so dangerous, it could change the fate of the entire galaxy. On a desolate planet far from the reach of Earth's military, Sarah's team found a hidden facility. It was here, in the depths of the alien empire, that they uncovered the truth. The child, it turned out, was not just an innocent victim. He was part of a larger experiment, one that involved genetic manipulation and the unlocking of dormant abilities that the Galactic Empire had long since abandoned. They had abducted him to test humanity's potential, to see if humans could harness the power they had so far failed to control. The Empire had seen something in the child that they hadn't seen in any other species, a power so great it could shift the tides of the war. Sarah, standing on that distant planet with her team, realized the terrifying truth. Her son was no longer just a child. He was the key to victory, the weapon that could either save Earth or doom it to destruction. As Sarah and her team prepared to return to Earth with the knowledge of what they had discovered, they knew they were running out of time. The aliens were already preparing their final strike, planning to wipe out Earth's remaining defenses in one swift blow. If they didn't act quickly, Earth would fall, and her son's power would be used against them. The stakes were higher than ever. Earth's survival, the fate of her son, and the future of the galaxy all depended on what happened next. But Sarah's resolve was unshakable. She would not rest until she had her son back, and she would not let the Galactic Empire use him as a tool of war. Back on Earth, the military forces were preparing for the final confrontation. The battle was coming, and this time, Earth would not back down. The Galactic Empire had made its greatest mistake, and now it would have to face the wrath of a species that had been underestimated for far too long. Humanity would fight until the very end, and they would not stop until their planet, their people, and their future were safe. The countdown had begun. Every passing hour felt like a ticking bomb, a reminder that the fate of Earth and her people rested on the shoulders of those brave enough to take the final steps into the unknown. The Galactic Empire's flagship, the Dominion, loomed like a dark storm cloud on the horizon. Its shadow stretched across the stars, and every corner of space was suffocating under the weight of its presence. But Earth had one final chance. A chance to turn the tide of the war, a chance to save the child, and ultimately, a chance to secure their future. Sarah stood in the war room, her eyes scanning the digital map that marked their approach to the Dominion. The military had done everything they could to prepare, amassing a fleet of ships large enough to challenge the Empire's power. But even with their best efforts, the outcome still seemed uncertain. No one knew how far the Empire would go to protect their prized asset, Sarah's son. The child was now at the heart of everything, a symbol of their power, their ambition, and their dark plans for the future. The forces gathered around Sarah, each person aware of the gravity of what was about to unfold. These weren't just soldiers. They were mothers, fathers, sons, daughters, people who had lost everything. The war had changed them. It had turned ordinary humans into warriors, driven by a singular, unrelenting purpose: to reclaim Earth, to stop the Empire, and to bring Sarah's son back. The final assault was imminent, but there was something more, something Sarah had come to realize in the weeks leading up to this moment. It wasn't just about rescuing her son. It was about proving that humanity, despite all its flaws, was worthy of standing on the galactic stage. The Empire had underestimated them from the very beginning, and now Earth would make them regret it. Sarah's voice broke through the tension in the room, calm and firm as she addressed her team. "We've lost too much. We can't afford to lose any more. But I'm not asking for victory today. I'm asking for survival. If we don't make it, if we fall, you make sure Earth remembers. You make sure they know we fought until our last breath." The silence that followed was heavy, but it was filled with determination. Every person in that room understood the sacrifice that was about to be made. They knew that their lives might not be the ones to finish this fight, but they also knew they could pave the way for others to carry the torch. As the fleet began its approach to the Dominion, the air was thick with anticipation. Ships of every shape and size, both human and alien, lined up behind Sarah's command, all drawn into this final push. Some ships were smaller, faster, designed for covered operations and quick strikes. Others were massive warships, bristling with weapons that could annihilate anything in their path. Sarah and her team boarded their ship, a sleek and powerful craft capable of penetrating the Empire's defenses. The tension inside was palpable, and yet Sarah remained calm, her mind focused on the mission ahead. She had seen enough destruction to last a lifetime, but this time, it was different. This time, she wasn't just fighting for survival. She was fighting for the future of her son, her people, and her world. The battle began with a thunderous roar as the human fleet engaged the Empire's defenses. Explosions rang out in space as ships collided and weapons fired with blinding intensity. The sight was like nothing anyone had ever seen. It was a war on a scale that had never been imagined. But Sarah's focus was singular: get to the child, rescue him, and end the war. Her ship cut through the chaos, moving with precision toward the heart of the Dominion. The closer they got, the more dangerous the mission became. Every moment, they faced the risk of being destroyed by the Empire's advanced weaponry. But Sarah's resolve was ironclad. She wouldn't stop until she had her son back. Inside the Dominion, the child was being held in a high-security chamber. He was no longer the innocent boy who had been taken from Earth. He had changed. The experiments conducted on him had awakened powers beyond what anyone could comprehend. The Galactic Empire had done more than just capture him. They had made him a weapon that could bend the very fabric of reality. And now, it seemed the child's power was the key to the final destruction of Earth. But Sarah wouldn't let that happen. She couldn't. As she and her team boarded the Empire's flagship, the intensity of the battle outside reached a fever pitch. They fought their way through the Empire's defenses, inching closer to the child's location. Every corridor they crossed, every door they breached, the enemy grew more desperate. The closer they got, the more determined the Empire became to stop them. The child's powers were on full display now, his eyes glowing with an otherworldly energy, his mind stretching beyond the boundaries of his physical form. He could feel Sarah's presence, and though he had been manipulated and altered, a part of him still recognized her. The final confrontation was inevitable. Sarah could feel it in the air, the heavy silence between the battles. She had to reach him before it was too late. But as they approached the chamber, the doors slammed shut. The Galactic Empire wasn't going to let them get to him without a fight. The final showdown was about to begin. Sarah's heart raced as she prepared for the impossible. There was no turning back now. This was Earth's last chance. The final assault had begun, and no matter what happened, the fate of the galaxy was hanging by a thread. The final moments were fast approaching, and Sarah could feel it in her bones. She had come this far, and nothing, not even the terrifying power of the Empire, would stand in her way. The child, her son, was out there. The boy she had once held in her arms, the one she had promised to protect, now held unimaginable power. But she would not allow the Galactic Empire to use him as their weapon. Not on her watch. The sounds of explosions and blaster fire rang out in the distance as the battle raged outside. The human forces were engaged in a fierce fight, but inside the heart of the Dominion, Sarah's focus was sharp. It was all or nothing. Her team moved quickly through the dimly lit hallways, taking down soldiers as they advanced. The deeper they went into the ship, the more resistance they faced. The Empire was desperate. They had no choice but to protect the child at all costs. But Sarah's resolve was just as strong, and she knew this would be the moment that defined humanity's future. They finally reached the heart of the ship, the chamber where the child was being held. The door to the room was reinforced with an advanced locking mechanism, but Sarah wasn't about to let that stop her. She gave the signal, and her team moved into position. A single shot from a powerful weapon disabled the security system, and the door slid open with a deafening hiss. Inside, the child was standing, his eyes glowing with an eerie, otherworldly energy. He was no longer the innocent boy Sarah had known. The experiments had changed him, physically and mentally. But even through the transformation, Sarah could feel a flicker of recognition in his gaze. He knew her, and though his power was immense, part of him was still her son. "Mom," he whispered, his voice barely audible. The word sent a shiver down Sarah's spine. "Henry," Sarah breathed, her voice cracking. "It's me. You're going to be okay. I'm here. We're going home." But the child's gaze hardened, his power surging as he struggled to control the overwhelming force inside him. It was clear that the Empire's manipulation had taken its toll. The child was caught between two worlds, his love for his mother and the power the Empire had instilled within him. The room shook as the child's energy exploded, sending waves of destructive force outward. Sarah and her team were thrown off their feet, and the walls cracked under the pressure. The Empire had anticipated this. They had known the child would be a threat, a danger even to himself. But Sarah refused to give up. She pulled herself up, her eyes locked on her son. She knew she had to reach him, to break through the darkness that had taken hold of him. "Henry," she called out, her voice full of determination. "I know you're still in there. I know you can hear me. You're not a weapon. You're my son. You were never meant to be this." For a moment, it seemed like the child hesitated. The energy around him flickered, and for the briefest second, his eyes softened. But then the Empire's voice echoed through the chamber, cold and commanding. "Enough," the voice boomed. "The child belongs to us. He is the key to our victory. You will not take him." The voice belonged to the leader of the Galactic Empire, the very being who had orchestrated the child's transformation. The figure appeared in the doorway, flanked by elite soldiers. The Empire had no intention of letting the child go. They saw him as their ultimate weapon, the one thing that could turn the tide of the war in their favor. Sarah stepped forward, her hand outstretched. She wasn't afraid. She knew what she had to do. "You can't control him. You never could. This ends now." The Empire leader sneered. "You are foolish, human. You think you can defeat us. The child is ours, and we will use him to crush your planet." But Sarah stood her ground. She knew that this wasn't just about saving her son. This was about saving humanity. The Galactic Empire had underestimated Earth's resilience, and it was time they learned just how wrong they were. As the final confrontation began, the child's power erupted once more. But this time, Sarah was ready. She stepped forward, her voice steady as she called to him. "You are more than what they've made you. You have the power to choose. Choose to be free." For a moment, the world seemed to stop. The child's eyes locked onto Sarah's, and in that instant, everything changed. The energy that had once been uncontrollable now shifted, flickering as if it was responding to the love and strength Sarah had shown him. The Empire leader let out a scream of fury, but it was too late. The child, no longer a weapon, used his power to break free from the Empire's control. The force of his energy shattered the walls of the chamber, sending shockwaves throughout the ship. The Empire soldiers were thrown back, their weapons useless against the child's raw power. Sarah took a step back, watching in awe as her son stood tall, his power now under his control. It was a victory, but it was just the beginning. The war wasn't over, and the fight for Earth's future was far from finished. But in this moment, Sarah knew they had won. They had taken back what was theirs. They had taken back their humanity. As the dust settled and the remnants of the Empire's forces retreated, Sarah embraced her son, the child she had fought so hard to protect. There would be challenges ahead, but they had made their stand. And Earth, once on the brink of destruction, had shown the galaxy that they were a force to be reckoned with. The final showdown had ended, and humanity had emerged victorious. The Galactic Empire's forces, though vast and powerful, were no match for the unyielding spirit of Earth's people. With their plans in ruins and their most valuable weapon now free at the hands of those they had once oppressed, the Empire began its retreat. It was clear that Earth's declaration of war had been more than just an act of defiance. It had become a symbol of human resilience, a message that no one, no matter how powerful, could ever take away their freedom. Sarah stood with her son, Henry, at the heart of the destruction. The battle had ended, but the war was far from over. The child's power had shattered the Empire's control, but there was still much to be done. The universe was a vast place, and though Earth had proven itself capable of standing against the most formidable force known, they would need to rebuild, to gather their strength for the challenges ahead. But for now, Sarah allowed herself a moment of peace. Henry, now fully in control of his incredible abilities, was no longer the weapon the Empire had created. He was her son again, the boy she had once cradled in her arms and promised to protect. She could see the humanity in his eyes, the warmth that had never truly left him, no matter how much power the Empire had poured into his mind. "Mom, I'm sorry," Henry said quietly, his voice full of guilt. "I never wanted to hurt anyone." Sarah smiled softly, reaching out to touch his face. "You didn't. You were never the problem, Henry. It was always them. The Empire. You were just their pawn. But now you're free. And together, we're going to make things right." The words felt heavy with the weight of what had just transpired. The Empire had been a ruthless force, but Earth's strength had shown that even the darkest of times could be overcome with unity and courage. As Sarah looked around at the destruction of the once imposing ship, she knew that this battle, though won, was only the beginning. The galaxy had been rocked by Earth's declaration of war, and now the people of Earth had to face the aftermath. There would be rebuilding, not just of their planet, but of their alliances. Earth was no longer just a small, unnoticed world in the corner of the galaxy. It had shown that it could stand toe-to-toe with the greatest powers, and in doing so, it had earned the respect and fear of the galaxy's other factions. The Galactic Council, shaken by the events, would now be forced to reconsider their stance on humanity. The humans, once viewed as weak, had proven that they were a force unlike any other. The Council had made a grave mistake, underestimating Earth's potential. They had thought that by taking one child, they could break humanity's spirit. Instead, they had sparked a rebellion that would forever change the course of galactic history. But for Sarah and Henry, the journey was far from over. The Empire had been defeated, but there were still others who viewed humanity as a threat. There were still those who would seek to control them, to bend Earth to their will. And while Earth's warriors had proved themselves in battle, the true test would come in the days and years to follow. As the remnants of the Empire's forces flood into the far reaches of space, Earth's leaders began to regroup. They had seen firsthand the power of their people, the bravery of their soldiers, and the determination of their civilians. There would be no going back to the way things were. Earth had fought for its future, and now it would forge a new path. The child, Henry, had a role to play in that future. His power was unmatched, but it was his heart that would define the course of humanity. With Sarah by his side, and the strength of Earth's people behind them, they would rise together. There would be peace, but it would be peace on their terms. Earth would no longer be a passive player in the galactic game. It would take its place as a force that demanded respect. In the days that followed, humanity began to rebuild. The ships that had once carried their warriors to battle now served as symbols of hope. Cities, once shattered, were reconstructed, and the human spirit, stronger than ever, pushed forward. Sarah stood with Henry at the center of it all, a beacon of strength for a new generation. As they looked up at the stars, Sarah knew the fight was far from over. There would be more challenges ahead, more enemies to face. But for now, Earth had proven its worth, its resilience, and its power. The future of the galaxy was uncertain, but one thing was clear: Earth would no longer be underestimated. Together, they had shown the galaxy what it meant to be human: unbreakable, unyielding, and ready to fight for what was right. The war was over, but the story of humanity's rise was just beginning.